Greetings everyone! Welcome back to another one of my shorties. Hopefully this time it's actually going to be a shorty. Last time I think the video was something like 49 minutes, so a little bit of false advertising there. Do apologize for that. Also, if you haven't already done so, consider becoming a patron and supporting these wonderful series that I've been presenting to you and helping me on my quest to be a full-time Go producer. Hopefully, maybe one day, it can happen. So today's shorty, we are going to focus on queue players. Don players, sorry, focusing on queues today. One of my students had this really wonderful game where, again, we have this great example of how a game can drastically change depending on board position, evaluation, and Aji. And we'll see that in a moment. Now, the game starts off with a bit of a crazy opening such as this. We have 3 force stones firmly on this side of the third line, saying that he wants to potentially develop this area. This in and of itself is a little bit bad, but not the focus of this particular review, so we're going to skip over that and get to the good stuff. The game develops with Black trying to expand and build as much as he possibly can with the approach. White, on the other hand, a little bit jealous of the right-hand side, decides to go ahead and split like so. Probably should have backed off here and then attacked one of the 2 positions later on. Instead, he gets a little bit too early. Forces White into a 2-space extension, allowing Black to reapproach. So now he's getting kind of territorial over the place. We have kind of these unfinished positions for White. Not the best, but also not our focus. So let's move on. Our focus starts here as Black tries to push through White's position, and we have a question of how do we actually handle cutting stones. It's a lecture I recently gave. If you haven't already seen that, it's probably either on YouTube or will be on YouTube shortly, so you can review that later. Right now, we need to figure out which group is weaker. White says that this group is weaker than this one, and rightly so. So leans on Black stones in order to try to get stronger to attack the cutting stones. This so far is a good idea. This is a really nice thought. He clearly has an idea on how he's supposed to strengthen himself before attacking anything. I do like this. So far, I would say his ideas are good. Where we get into a bit of a problem here is these next few moves. Black decides to do the diagonal rather than extending, which is a lot more severe. He decides to play this diagonal move, which is really not good for Black. This leads into a whole bunch of trouble that could have been played. You could play here, for example, because this is going to be a forcing move. Then you could play out, for example, to threaten to surround and link up and do just a million different things at once on the board. That would be amazing. So recognizing that we have those forcing moves, it would probably not be a bad idea to play here. White plays something a little bit different, but pretty close. But here's where the queue begins to get a little bit nervous of what he's really doing. Black descends, which is a little bit strange, because this over here was already alive. This already here was already alive. You can go back and look at that if you so wish. This wasn't going to have trouble living. So that wasn't something that really had to be played. And White descending here, playing what is affectionately referred to as puppy go, just following our opponent around the board, is also something that we didn't have to play. Because granted, you are keeping this separated. This is separated. However, imagine a variation like this instead. Like, yes, your opponent can connect. Your opponent can absolutely connect, but look at all of these forcing moves that you have on the board. Something like this would be worth a lot more than, let's say, your opponent deciding to connect underneath on the second line. It's just not worth it. These cutting stones are just laughably insane now because there's this huge wall here that is just swallowing them entirely. So this is a moment in the game where black played a pointless move, white answered that pointless move, and missed a brilliant sequence that can completely change this game on its head. This is kind of why I say when getting stronger in Go, especially as a queue player, it's not really about finding all of the best moves so much. Sometimes it's more about finding the moves that, let's say, are bad and figuring out how to respond to them. In this case, don't respond to it all. Keep following up what you were doing. Instead, white did respond. Black comes out. And rather than still playing the variation that we just saw, white gets into panic mode and defends. White is now panicking and defending rather than following up all those forcing moves. Like, even this one would have been pretty reasonable, followed by a cap. A much, much, much bigger difference than what we're seeing here. So this is an area where white thinks he has good ideas, but he's too afraid that his opponent is playing moves that really need to be responded to directly, rather than following up his ideas, seeing if they're good or bad, and then doing something about it. Now, through a series of rather bad shapes, we can see that white managed to kill off a couple of stones by pushing through. You can see this shape wasn't able to defend against the push through because there isn't a target there. However, now we have to identify the life and death status of this group. Is it strong or weak? Black says that this group is weak and launches an attack. White comes out, as you would do, which would make sense. You could come out here. You could lean out here if you wanted to as well. All of these are good moves. White decides to lean, and I kind of like it. He's deciding to lean on this stone to kind of attack the center. I can't really fault that. White defends himself. However, after the defense, white has decided here that, once again, his opponent is just too good or too strong, or his moves are making too much sense. Something. And he goes and defends himself severely, rather than, let's say, going after a shape point, getting stronger and then attacking either or, even just extending up again because of the attachment again and the cut through. I mean, this would be Sente. This is definitely Sente. Even this isn't bad because we're threatening to attack multiple points at once. Instead, white goes passive and affords black the opportunity to once again change entirely how the board could have gone, and instead getting a really decent position for himself. Because where black could, or white could have come out and threatened to kill two groups at once, now we have black coming out and surrounding white. A sequence which should have been completely in the reverse. White should have come out, attack both, threatened to attack either or. Black never gets to surround one of white's groups. And in fact here, we're still in defensive mode, and white goes back and even defends his group. He's in the defend mindset. We saw it here, we saw it here. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.